Because when you play small, nobody freaking benefits. Nobody benefits. And I think it's time that we retire this idea that we just need to be humble and be quiet. Like, no, take up space. This is actually literally what I talked about on the news yesterday, that we need to retire that like analogy of calladita te ves más bonita. That's BS. That's so not true. Welcome to the Chingona Revolution podcast, where we will bring out your inner badass Latina, overcome self-doubt, help you gain clarity, and pave your own path, all while leading with courage. I am your host, Latina coach and speaker, Erica Cruz. Hello, friends. Welcome back to another episode of Chingona Revolution podcast. In today's episode, I want to talk to you about how to feel worthy of your goals, your dreams, and your desires. I think that this is such an important topic. I've been talking a lot about being magnetic and how to get into magnetic energy. I actually have a 4-step magnetic framework that I am teaching in my How to Be Magnetic webinar. It is a 4-step framework, and the second step of it is know that you are worthy of your desires. And this is the number one dream killer. When we know that we want something, but we don't feel worthy of it, or we doubt that we can have it. So we don't actually end up pursuing it because we don't feel worthy. Like, we don't have belief in ourselves that it can actually happen for us. And the reason that this is such an important topic and something that's just kind of so near and dear to me is because I spent a lot of time feeling unworthy of the things that I wanted. I felt unworthy of having a business. I felt unworthy of being able to help people. I felt unworthy of making a lot of money. And I went from that, like overthinking everything I did in my life, to ending up on the front page of the New York Times, to being on live TV a total of 4 times so far, of interviewing Luis Fonsi, of, let's see, I don't know what other things have I done, of like countless keynote speeches. And I just started my business a little bit over 3 years ago. And it's so crazy that I went from feeling so unworthy to feeling worthy. And I want to share with you all how that happened, because I'm sure that you have things in your life that you really want to do, whether it's like write a book or start a business or start posting on social media. And you really have this desire to do it. You know it's what you want to do, but yet you stop yourself because you're not sure that you're capable, or you're not sure that you're worthy of it. So I'm going to share some examples from my life. I'm going to share just kind of the process I took myself through. And then I do have 3 tips for you at the end, actually 4 tips for you at the end. So think about whatever this dream is that you have, or whatever desire or goal you have that maybe you've been stopping yourself from going after because you feel unworthy of it, because we're going to apply those tips to your specific goal, desire, and dream. I would also like to disclose that a lot of times worthiness, or the feeling of unworthiness, can come from trauma, or it can come from a traumatic event. So this podcast episode is not a replacement for therapy. It is not a replacement for you seeking a mental health professional. This is me sharing my own experience, as well as things that I've seen that have helped my clients. But if you are really feeling this level of, if you're feeling that you are not worthy, not just in pursuing a goal, but like just in general, then I definitely would think about reaching out to a therapist if you're not already working with a therapist. So just wanted to give you that disclaimer. So at the time of recording this podcast episode, I was just on live TV yesterday morning at 5:45 a.m. and 6:45 a.m. on Telemundo, live TV, being interviewed about how to empower the women in our lives, speaking in Spanish. And that was, even though it was not my first time doing it, it was still so overwhelming because of the uncertainty of what I was going to be asked, right? Like, I wasn't sure exactly what questions they were going to ask me. And because it was in Spanish, and if it was in English, I mean, I could talk in circles all day long, right? Like right now I'm speaking without a script. I just wrote down my points on the 3 tips that I have for you all, the 4 tips that I have, so that I don't forget them. But there's no script right now, and I could just go because I think in English, I read in English, I studied in English, and I coach in English. So I'm just so well versed. But in Spanish, my brain doesn't work automatically like that. I have to think about it. And luckily, I've been at my mom's house. So, I mean, her and I, whenever she's home, right now she's in Mexico, but whenever she's here, we do speak Spanish, but it's not like I'm having conversations with her about how to empower women and different things like that. So, as I learned that I was going to be on the news, of course, I said yes right away. And that's already a big step, right? Because I've actually had clients who've been wanting to be on specific podcasts, and then they get the invite to be on that podcast, and they just let the invite sit in their inbox for weeks, and they're paralyzed to respond because there's this feeling of, oh my gosh, am I actually worthy enough? Or there's a thought, am I actually worthy enough of this opportunity? And they just avoid it, and they don't just like take the opportunity. So because this isn't my first TV opportunity, because I knew that this was something that was like the turnaround time was very quick, I responded right away. And I think I'm also just at the point where I'm like, I'll figure it out later. Like, let me just say yes. And then I'll make myself be ready, even if I don't feel ready. So I said yes immediately, and they sent over the topic. What it was going to be about, like, how do we empower women in our lives? How do we choose like the words that we use? And sure enough, they ended up using like one of the questions they gave me, but they completely changed the next one. So I really was on live TV talking from just like without having been prepared for that question. So, being that it wasn't my first time, I kind of knew a little bit of things to expect. Like, I knew that it wasn't going to be a super long segment. But even though it wasn't my first time, the night before, I got so nervous, and I was talking to my friends. I reached out to my friends because I was freaking out, and I was like, can I like just give you some of my talking points that I prepped for? Hopefully I can use these during the interview. But what I said to one of my friends is, what if I just call out sick? What if I just don't do it? And I literally had that thought. And it's so funny. It wasn't that I felt completely unworthy of the opportunity, but sometimes we start to question if we can actually do something. And this is normal. I want to validate that when we're doing scary things and when we're stepping outside of our comfort zone, our brain is going to want to pull us back to safety and to what we already know. And this felt very unsafe for me to be on live TV where like there's going to be no editing, speaking a language that when I was a kid was my primary language, but by the time I got to school, English has been the one that dominates, right? I read in English, I do everything in English. So even me, who has this podcast, who creates content, who goes live, who's been on TV, was questioning whether she should call out sick. So I just want to validate that the fear is real and it is okay. It's okay to feel afraid. Earlier, I was mentioning my client who had been wanting to get on a podcast and then finally got the invite and then didn't respond. And this happens a lot. People are letting the universe know, letting their higher selves know, telling themselves that they want something. And then whenever they get it, they literally want to run from it. And a lot of times this happens because we feel unworthy of having this thing. Even though we know we want it, there is a level of, am I worthy of this? Do people like me do this? Do people like me write books? Do people like me start businesses? Other people can do it, but can I? If this podcast resonates with you, I invite you to my free webinar, How to Be Magnetic. You'll learn how to attract opportunities, clients, and community without the hustle. This free webinar is happening on Tuesday, April 16th at 5 o'clock Pacific, and you are going to learn all about my 4-step magnetic framework to attract opportunities, clients, and community. You're going to learn how to go from hustling to attracting using feminine energy. You'll learn how to make decisions for your business by listening to your intuition instead of following what everyone else is doing and saying on social media. You're also going to learn why you are so worthy of your wildest dreams and why when these dreams come true, everybody benefits. This is for you if you are a female entrepreneur who's been really in her masculine slash hustly energy and you really want to embody your feminine slash magnetic energy. This is for you if you want to attract ideal clients and opportunities without having to slide into people's DMs or sound or feel salesy. And this is for you if you don't have a problem taking action, but you are just taking so much action to see what works and you just want to be intentional with your action because you don't have all the time in the world to do all of the different things. If you said yes to any of this, then join us on Tuesday, April 16th at 5 o'clock Pacific. This webinar is brought to you by Magnetic Mastermind. Magnetic Mastermind is a spiritual business mastermind for women entrepreneurs who want to double their demand by becoming magnetic. After the webinar, the doors for Magnetic Mastermind will open and there will be a 48-hour bonus for webinar attendees. This round of Magnetic Mastermind not only has a completely revised curriculum, but we also have an in-person kickoff event happening on May 25th and 26th in Santa Monica, California. So not only do you get to work with me for 6 months, and there's so many amazing bonuses that I don't want you to miss out on, but we also kick it off with an in-person event where you get to meet your mastermind sisters, you get to hang out with me, and we really just get to set the tone for the next 6 months. Make sure that you register for the webinar. That is when we are going to open doors for Magnetic Mastermind. To register, go down below to the show notes where you'll find the link, or you can go to the Erica Cruz, that's Erica with a K.com/webinar. I will see you then and enjoy the rest of the episode. So let me go ahead and finish my story about the news so that I can hurry up and actually give you the tips that you can apply in your own life. So I went live. I woke up at 4 a.m. I got camera ready. I did post a behind the scenes video on my Instagram. So if you follow me on Instagram, check out the video where I just take you kind of behind the scenes of how I prepped. And pretty much what I did to get over my nerves was I just brain dumped in my journal about everything that was worrying me and everything that I wanted to say about the topic, which this topic was about women's empowerment. So I wrote down a bunch of different points and then I wrote them in English because my brain works better in English. And then I went to Google Translate just to make sure that the way that I was thinking about saying it in Spanish was correct. And I just kept a document of different notes that I reviewed for like 24 hours before we actually went live because I knew the topic was women empowerment. So even if they didn't ask me the exact questions, which they didn't actually do that, I could at least pull from the talking points. So I prepared as much as I could, but there's only so much you can actually prepare, right? So I did that. And then I ended up also going to kickboxing, because I was feeling just so anxious in my body. I had to go like let energy out. So I went to kickboxing. I came back home. I decided to not go to dance class. I instead took a bath. I practiced a little bit more. I reached out to my friends and I just like reminded myself that I was fully freaking supported. And then I went live and it went really well. I actually posted the entire clip on my Instagram. So if you want to go look at it, you're more than welcome to check that out. So now bring to mind the thing that you want to do. And I just want you to imagine, like, how would you show up towards this dream, this goal, this desire, if you believe that you were completely worthy of it, right? So let's say that you have been wanting to be a speaker and then you see that a conference is taking applications, but you're feeling unworthy. You're a lot less likely to actually apply to be a speaker. But if you feel like, oh yeah, I can totally do this, you're probably going to apply to be a speaker. So remember, feeling worthy doesn't mean that you're like 100% confident. Feeling worthy means that you can figure it out and that you are capable of figuring it out and that you deserve this thing, this goal of yours. So bring to mind whatever it is that you want to do. And I am going to share 3 tips with you. Okay. The first one is understand that when you achieve your goals, your dreams, and your desires, everyone benefits. Okay, so let's just use a few different examples. Let's say that you want to go and write a book and you're feeling like maybe you're not sure if you're worthy of writing a book. But imagine that you did go write a book. How would that influence other people? How would that impact other people's lives? I mean, books are pretty much just ideas that you share with other people, right? It could be a fiction or nonfiction book, that doesn't really matter. But the point is, like, books can be freaking life-changing. And by you believing that you're not worthy and not actually writing the book, you're depriving of your potential readers from having that experience. Or let's go back to the speaking example. Let's say that there's a conference that you'd like to speak at, but you decide, you know what, I don't really feel worthy of applying, so I'm not going to apply. Well, think about all of the people that could have heard your speech, that could have like had an epiphany, a life-changing moment. They could have, like, that speech could have been a pivotal moment for them. So when you follow your desires, everyone benefits. Can you imagine if I felt like, oh my gosh, I'm not worthy of having a podcast, which years ago I did feel that way. But now we have so many of you listening every single week, which we appreciate you so much. But imagine if I let this belief that like I was unworthy get in the way of actually creating the podcast. So think about what it is that you want to do. Like maybe it's starting a business, maybe it is posting on social media, whatever it is that you want to do. Ask yourself, how does achieving this goal benefit other people as well? Like, how does me achieving my goals and dreams benefit everybody around me? And then it even benefits your immediate family as well. So I want you to take this as like a journal prompt and go ahead and like reflect on it. But like my mom has benefited so much by me following my purpose, even though she was the one advising me against it because she didn't understand it at the beginning. Now she's like a full supporter. She actually called me yesterday after my TV interview and she was like, "Nomás te quiero decir que estoy muy orgullosa de ti," which if you don't speak Spanish, it is, I just want you to know that I'm very proud of you. And like, I don't think my mom has ever said that to me until yesterday. And I know she's not proud of me because I was on Telemundo. I know she's proud of me because of everything I've built that then ended up getting me on Telemundo, because she sees all the work that goes on behind the scenes. So it's not even just that, like, oh my gosh, are you worthy of your goals and your dreams? But like, everyone in your life is worthy of receiving your magic. And that's how I want you to think about it. Because when you play small, nobody freaking benefits. Nobody benefits. And I think it's time that we retire this like idea that we just need to be humble and be quiet. Like, no, take up space. This is actually literally what I talked about on the news yesterday, that we need to retire that like analogy of calladita te ves más bonita. That's BS. That's so not true. The person who invented a hand sanitizer, her name is actually don't remember her name, but she invented hand sanitizer in 1966 in Bakersfield, California, and she was a fellow Latina. Can you imagine if like she really believed calladita te ves más bonita? Like, what would we have done in 2020? Everybody would have like walked around with like rubbing alcohol. Like, what would we have done? So she was the first person to invent hand sanitizer, to like have it be in a gel form. How freaking cool is that, right? And we all benefited from her believing that she was worthy of this invention. So think about what you're depriving the world of when you are carrying the belief that you're not worthy. So go ahead and reflect. That's the first tip I have for you. The second tip I have for you, it's just like a thought I want you to practice. You could also journal on this one if you want. But the second tip that I have is trust that you would not have an opportunity that you are not ready for. I'm going to say that again. Trust that you would not have an opportunity that you aren't ready for. The fact that you're having this opportunity means that you can handle it. The fact that this opportunity is in your lap means that you have everything you need to take it. Doesn't mean it's going to be easy, right? I just shared with you all, I almost wanted to call out from the freaking news interview, even though I've done this in the past, but it was just so scary to do it in Spanish. Doesn't mean it's going to be easy, but it does mean that you are capable and you are worthy, because we block so many blessings with this narrative of like, oh, I don't deserve that. Of course you do. Why would you not deserve it? Like, I want you all to know that you were born worthy. You don't have to go have X amount of accomplishments or X amount of money in your bank account or like a degree in order to be worthy. You are worthy because you are a human being, and every human being is worthy. So actually, let me add something to this, because you would never look at a baby and be like, oh, you know what? We're going to wait until you're a teenager to see what your grades are like and to see how much you've accomplished. And then we'll figure out if you're worthy or not. Right? We would never do that to a child. We would never even do that to a puppy. Like, would you look at your dog and be like, ah, you sleep too much, you're unworthy? But yet we do that to ourselves so much. We feel like, oh, I'm only worthy whenever I accomplish this, this, and that, or I'll be worthy when this. Like, no, you are worthy now because you are a human being and you're alive and you are divinely guided, right? Whether you're connected to that or not, you are connected to something bigger and you are here for a purpose. So that was the second tip, or the second belief that I wanted to instill in you. The third one is, let's say that maybe your goal is to like write a book one day. Maybe the first step isn't writing a book. Maybe the first step is writing a blog or writing in your journal, right? So the third tip is, how can you start building belief and evidence that you can do it? So I actually have a goal of writing a book. And 3 years ago, if somebody would have handed me like, okay, here's your, template, go ahead and like write your book, or like, here's some blank pages, go ahead and write your book, I wouldn't have even known what to write on there. Even now I have a little bit more clarity, but this is after having coached over 200 women. This is after having written countless emails. But now I do believe that I'm worthy of writing a book, and I believe I'm capable of it. But I didn't believe this 3 years ago, but I did begin to start building the belief and building evidence that I could be a writer, that I do have ideas that are worth sharing with other people. So whatever your goal is, I want you to think about like, what are the pre-goals to help you get there, so you can start building your belief and building evidence that you are capable of figuring it out. Like, that's really what I want you to think. Because I think sometimes you're all thinking, okay, I need to just already have it done and know exactly what to do. Like, no, you just have to believe that you can figure it out. It doesn't mean you have to have it figured out right now. Usually things don't happen just like overnight. Usually there's going to be like gradual steps towards reaching this goal, and allow yourself to build that belief and to build evidence like, oh yeah, I can do this. Oh wait, one day I want to be a keynote speaker. Well, look, I just spoke on a podcast. Or, oh my gosh, I just did a presentation at work today. Like, that is all evidence that you are going to be able to be a keynote speaker. So document that and take that in. And the last tip that I have for you is, join me for my free webinar. That's why I kept saying 3 tips and then 4 tips, because I was like, wait, yeah, just come to the webinar. So we are having a webinar all about how to be magnetic, how you can attract opportunities, clients, and community without hustling. It's happening on April 16th at 5 o'clock Pacific time. I'm going to cover my 4-step magnetic framework. I already mentioned believing that you're worthy is part of that framework. So we're going to go a little bit deeper into that. We're also going to talk about how to go from hustling to attracting using feminine energy, how to make decisions for your business and your life by listening to your intuition, and then why you are worthy of your wildest dreams, which is exactly what we've been talking about today. So I can't wait to see you there. Today is a short and sweet episode. So make sure that you register for the webinar. The link to do that is down below. Make sure you also check out my Instagram so you can see the live TV segment as well as the behind the scenes of the live TV segment. Thank you all so much for the love, not just like from the news interview, but even just on this podcast and the DMs. I read every single one of them. Sometimes they get hidden in my messages, so like it takes me a while, but I do read every single one of them. And I just want to thank you so much for the support, because this podcast wouldn't be a thing without you. So thank you. I hope to see you at the webinar. Have a great week, and I will see you next week. Thank you so much for joining me this week. Make sure to visit theericacruz.com. That's Erica with a K, where you can subscribe to the show so you'll never miss an episode. You can help this podcast grow by supporting me with an Apple Podcast rate and review. If you took anything away from this episode, I invite you to take a screenshot and share it on social media so that your favorite badass Latinas can also check it out. Be sure to tag me at the Erica Cruz. That's Erica with a K, because you know I want to see it. If you're ready to join the revolution and be a part of the Courage Driven Latina community, visit couragedrivenlatina.com to get more information and join the waitlist. Thanks again, and I'll see you next week.